Max Weber.
Karl Emil Maximilian Max Weber was a German sociologist, philosopher, and political economist whose ideas influenced social theory, social research, and the entire discipline of sociology. Weber is often cited, with Emil Durkheim and Karl Marx, as among the three founding creators of sociology. Weber was a key proponent of methodological antipositivism, arguing for the study of social action through interpretive, rather than purely empiricist, means, based on understanding the purpose and meaning that individuals attach to their own actions. Weber's main intellectual concern was understanding the processes of rationalization, secularization, and disenchantment that he associated with the rise of capitalism and modernity, and which he saw as the result of a new way of thinking about the world. Weber is best known for his thesis combining economic sociology and the sociology of religion, elaborated in his book The Protestant Ethic and the Spirit of Capitalism, in which he proposed that ascetic Protestantism was one of the major elective affinities associated with the rise in the Western world of market-driven capitalism and the rational legal nation-state. Against Marx's historical materialism, Weber emphasized the importance of cultural influences embedded in religion as a means for understanding the genesis of capitalism. The Protestant ethic formed the earliest part in Weber's broader investigations into world religion. He would go on to examine the religions of China, the religions of India and ancient Judaism, with particular regard to the apparent non-development of capitalism in the corresponding societies, as well as to their differing forms of social stratification. In another major work, Politics as a Vocation, Weber defined the state as an entity which successfully claims a monopoly of the legitimate use of physical force within a given territory.
Those who pursue religion often turn away from worldly affairs. They're suspicious of wealth and business, preferring an ascetic life of contemplation and prayer. The sociologist and economist Max Weber argued that after the Reformation, one form of Christian Protestantism, Calvinism, encouraged a different attitude to work, with far-reaching effects. Calvinists believed in predestination. A precise number of souls would go to heaven. The lucky ones had places reserved by God. However, most Calvinists were terrified there would be no seat awaiting them in paradise. They were always on the lookout for signs that they had been saved. One clear indication that they were on the guest list was that they were actively contributing to their community through their work. In his book, The Protestant Ethic and the Spirit of Capitalism, Weber argued that the Calvinists' need to reassure themselves through their industry was an important factor in the growth of capitalism in Northern Europe. They built up businesses that generated wealth, but at the same time lived thrifty lives. They reinvested any surplus and so helped fuel capitalism. Eventually, capitalism would have a life and momentum of its own. But according to Weber at least, its initial impetus came from a theological source.
Russian author, one of the greatest of all novelists. Tolstoy's major works include War and Peace 1863-69, characterized by Henry James as a loose baggy monster, and Anna Karenina 1875-77, which stands alongside Flaubert's Madame Bovary and Fontaine's Effie Briest, as perhaps the most prominent 19th-century European novel of adultery. Tolstoy once said, "The one thing that is necessary, in life as in art, is to tell the truth." Tolstoy's life is often seen to form two distinct parts. First comes the author of great novels, and later a prophet and moral reformer. In historical events great men so-called are, but labels serving to give a name to the event, and like labels they have the least possible connection with the event itself. Every action of theirs, that seems to them an act of their own free will, is in an historical sense not free at all, but in bondage to the whole course of previous history, and predestined from all eternity. From War and Peace Leo Tolstoy was born at Yelznaya Polyana, in Tula province, the fourth of 5 children. The title of Count had been conferred on his ancestor in the early 18th century by Peter the Great. His parents died when he was a child, and he was brought up by relatives. In 1844 Tolstoy started his studies of law and Oriental languages at Kazan University, but he never took a degree. Dissatisfied with the standard of education, he returned in the middle of his studies back to Yasnaya Polyana, and then spent much of his time in Moscow and St. Petersburg. In 1847 Tolstoy was treated for venereal disease. After contracting heavy gambling debts, Tolstoy accompanied in 1851 his elder brother Nikolai to the Caucasus, and joined an artillery regiment. In the 1850s Tolstoy also began his literary career, publishing the autobiographical trilogy Childhood 1852, Boyhood 1854, and Youth 1857. One of Tolstoy's earliest published stories, The Raid, was based on a military maneuver against the Chechen mountain tribesmen, in which Nikolai's unit took part. The story appeared in censored form in 1852. Can it be that there is not room for all men on this beautiful earth under these immeasurable starry heavens? Tolstoy asked. Can it be possible that in the midst of this entrancing nature feelings of hatred, vengeance, or the desire to exterminate their fellows can endure in the souls of men? About 50 years later Tolstoy returned to his experiences in Caucasus in the novella Haji Murad 1904, still a highly insightful introduction to the backgrounds of today's Chechenian tragedy. It also was an elegiac reprise of the dominant themes of Tolstoy's art and life. The famous philosopher Ludwig Wittgenstein gave the book to his disciple Norman Malcolm, telling him that there was a lot to be got out of it.
Jane Addams was born in 1860 in Cedarville, Illinois. A central figure in the Progressive Era, Jane Addams impacted economic, political, social, and moral reforms. Jane was one of few women who pursued a college education, but faced discrimination in the working world. Despite unconventionality, Jane Addams' passion for effecting change impacted the issues that were otherwise neglected in America.
In 1889, Jane Addams and Ellen Starr co-founded the Hull House in Chicago. The Hull House improved the lives of the many women and children who could not find their place within society. Originally, the Hull House provided further education for the women, giving them job opportunities, a broader skill set, and housing. The Hull House then expanded its services and provided kindergarten education, theater workshops, music schools, cooking classes, language classes, reading groups, and physical education. The Hull House also served as the first haven for abused women, providing them with caring counseling.
To parent-teacher meetings goes many a bewildered oldster.
Now hold on, Miss Fox. It's all very well to teach my boy to paint pretty pictures and build birdhouses, but he doesn't even know his multiplication table.
For generations, U.S. youngsters went to school because they had to. And most communities boasted but one room and a single teacher with which to educate their entire and assorted progeny.
Good morning, children.
Good morning.
The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. He makes me to lie down in green pastures.
Johnny learned his multiplication tables as his father and grandfather had before him, through endless classroom drills.
2 9 6 is 12. 3 9 6 is 18.
By the same process, he learned the key dates of history and impossible to spell words. And geography.
Oregon. Nevada.
The drill formula was simple, if monotonous, and Johnny's marks were more apt to measure the strength of his memory than his understanding.